disaster risk reduction a global movement with your participation. Next one. So this is a progress so far we have been made, and actually it's quite impressive. 120 countries, 20 countries, or 26 countries, as Anna informed me. Actually, 126 countries have already designated the official focal point for the follow-up and implementation of HUGO Framework for Action. And we also have 46 countries established multi-stakeholder national platforms to address disaster risk reduction, and 31 linked to CCA UNDAF. I think people who work with UN probably understand what is CCA UNDAF. CCA is Common Country Assessment among the UN agencies based at the country level. UNDAF is a UN development assistance framework in the UN. So basically they plan together, try to have a holistic approach. And also 31 countries start to link their work, disaster reduction work, with poverty reduction. Next. And this gives you a landscape of how we work with UN system. And here you can see ICR is in the middle, and we have the humanitarian block, development, and also actually UNICEF, both in the development and humanitarian, I would say. So this basically, we try to get their support, different UN agencies' support, to address disaster risk reduction and to mainstream disaster risk reduction into developmental processes. Anna? Okay, and this is actually a picture for a UN diagram of the ICR system. And this system, I just want to mention that before the HUGO framework, before the World Conference in 2005, we only have an interagency task force for disaster reduction. That is only UN business. Government-only observers. But after the World Conference, the governments are main players. Our emphasis is national and local implementation. So all these ICR systems become very inclusive. We use global platform for disaster risk reduction as a vehicle to keep the momentum gained at the World Conference on disaster reduction going. And the global platform actually is organized twice a year. And the first session was organized in 2007 in June. And in this session, we actually gathered 122 countries. And they are taking this disaster risk reduction implementation of the HUGO framework quite seriously. And the next session will be held in Geneva next year in June. So you are very welcome to come and to make a contribution, to share your experience, to share your knowledge on disaster risk reduction. This you can start it afterwards. And next. The major challenges, I'm going to close now. I think I can have a long list, but I choose to have 5 points. I would like you to keep that in mind when you do your work. So at least we can start somewhere. And the first one, the world is still lack of understanding and the capacity to reduce disaster risks, especially at a national level. Governments have not allocated adequate human and financial resources for reducing existing disaster risk in order to protect development gains. Development sectors have not yet made disaster assessment as part of the development plans and the programs at all levels. Mainstreaming gender concerns and needs in disaster risk reduction still remain unsatisfactory. We just started, and in order to facilitate the process, we made 2 publications. One is last year, before the global platform, we tried to sensitizing more people on the subject. And one is prepared for this meeting. Actually, we brought here 100 copies. It's gone. I think some of you got the publications. How to link disaster reduction with climate change adaptation from gender perspective. And the last one is disaster reduction has not yet fully recognized as a tool. For climate change adaptation, again, is especially at a national level. Next. So from all this presentation, what kind of conclusions we can draw from it? Linkages between poverty, environment, climate, and disasters require integrated approach. Capacity needs for future climate risks are mostly similar to those for today's risks. So that's why we say disaster risk reduction can be used as a tool. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't waste the human and financial resources. With that money, you can do more than start to reinvent the wheel. Yeah? Urgent needs to integrate risk management into development sectors. Today, we are going to listen to Dr. Linda, how we can mainstream it into health sector. And with education, we made quite a good progress. We also brought here a publication, the good practices of mainstreaming disaster reduction into education around the globe. We brought probably 40 copies here. But if you want to have a copy, download from our website. And environment, and we're also working very closely with UNEP, both in Africa and also in Geneva, and science and culture. Let's build alliance to address, we said, disaster risk reduction like gender, like climate change adaptation. They are all cross-cutting development issues. It is very crucial for us to achieve sustainable development. So in order to make it happen, we need to build alliance and to work together to address different aspects of the challenges. So key steps forward, I basically summarized 5 to address the 5 conclusions. And forge a coherent approach to adaptation and disaster risk reduction. Make risk reduction a core part of the post-2012 climate change strategy. And just want you to know at the beginning, the climate change community has not taken disaster risk reduction into consideration at all. But now, they realize that they can build on the gains, on the progress of disaster risk reduction. The IPCC is already willing to carry out a special study on disaster issues in order to consider it in the next strategy. The first one is to use the ICR system to boost the effort to reduce and manage risks, especially for the gender issues. I think this is the early version of my presentation. That's why the beginning is changed. And the next one, you will get the final version is also there. The last one is make risk reduction an integral part of development and for development policies and the programs. And the first part there, especially we need to develop a gender-sensitive risk assessment tools. Okay, next. To finish my presentation, I wish to share this quotation with you from our Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon. I quote, "Climate change is expected to cause more severe and more frequent natural hazards. As our cities and coasts grow more vulnerable, these hazards can lead to disasters that are far worse than those we have seen to date. We have a moral, social, and economic obligations to build resilience by 2015. Implementing the Hugo Framework for Action will also help us reach the Millennium Development Goals." So, unquote. This actually has been addressed. This actually has been, the Ban Ki-moon actually made this address at the ministerial conference in New York. And I think that right now, more and more people are aware the importance of disaster risk reduction in the context of social economic development. So I now finish my presentation. And I just want you to remember those happy kids. And in order to protect their future, please try to start to think about your action